Hey, hello there. My name is Grifter and welcome to Retro Productions. This is my new show. There's a story behind it. In this first part of the series, we're gonna look back into time. The original Double Dragon was one of the first beat-em-ups ever to hit the arcades. For a time it was a cultural icon, but how well do you know its story? The game started after a girl was captured by a group of street dogs. The Lee brothers went on a journey to save her. The guy responsible for the game is none other than Yoshihisa Kishimoto. Big chance you never heard of him, since the Japanese game director is fairly unknown by the general public. Yet he is responsible for the creation of one of the most famous video games ever created, Double Dragon. There's quite a tale to tell about this peculiar Kishimoto-san. His story began at the famous company Data East. Well, at least it used to be famous back in the days when it existed. The first game he worked on was Pro Soccer, released in 1982. But he worked as a sub-director there, and it was until the next game that he was the actual director. Cobra Command was the name, and he used Laserdisc technology to deliver this high-octane action game. So, Kishimoto-san started to make a name for himself. In that same year, he also directed another laser game, namely Road Blaster. This was also an animated movie game with jaw-dropping graphics. Not surprisingly, because it was Anime Studio 2 Animations that provided the art and animations. The game was a hit and Kishimoto-san was in. But it would be the last game he ever made for Data East, cause he quit working for them. The company Technos was founded in 1981 by 3 ex-staff members of Data East in a one-room apartment. They had huge interest in Kishimoto-san, and so they made an offer he could not refuse, and they arranged an interview for him. Since laserdiscs were all the thing that made people dream, with the likes of Dragon Slayer and so on, it wasn't a big kept secret that they wanted him to work on new laserdisc games, but he blatantly refused. Nope, I don't want to make that. So he made a counter-offer. He wanted to make a game about himself. Yeah, I kid you not. He pitched the idea of making a game based on his life, well, loosely based on his life. Well, to say, his school life. Yep, Kishimoto-san used to be a real brawler back in his school days. He namely got into fights almost every day. He stated that was due to family problems, but the thing that really triggered him was when a girlfriend dumped him. Aww. Yeah, I know, but hey, it was good food for his pitching idea. So, the game was about a fighter, and he even spiced up his interview by adding another love in his life. Namely, the movie Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. It would be a single-player brawler centered around a high school student getting into scuffles with local street scum. Technos agreed, and the result was Neketsu Kuho Kunio-kun. Yeah, I can barely speak out this title, so they made a slight change for the Western release, just a little bit.
Renegade.
Yeah. So a year later, he redirected this game for the NES. It became so popular that the audience started demanding a sequel. But how could he improve? How could he improve on the game he made so great? It had to be refreshing enough to make a sequel. Since more games started to include two-player gameplay, Technos kinda demanded the same thing, and another thing they really wanted was the game to make more appealing for the Western audience, since that market was more profitable but harder to break through. So he started writing history, and he used his biggest love, Enter the Dragon, as a huge inspiration. The result was a fantastic two-player side-scrolling beat-em-up called Double Dragon, one of the finest ever produced. First off, come on, listen, the theme song. Till today, it's one of the greatest ever produced. The game has been ported to almost every possible imaginable platform ever released. It has gotten 2 more sequels and a guest appearance and crossovers in other games over the following years. Later on, there also came comics, lots of merch, a cartoon and even a movie. Yeah, I know, it all sucked. just like most of the games that came after Part 2. It's safe to say that the only good Double Dragon games were the ones made by Kishimoto-san, were the ones where Kishimoto-san gave his blessings, or at least the ones made by Technos. In 2017 came an official fourth title in the series. Although I did enjoy it, nostalgia-wise, it wasn't a good game, and I lost the opportunity to revive the series. I love the old school approach they took, but I know, they should have opted for the arcade graphics and not the NES version of the first game. It also kinda felt flat and it wasn't too much inspiring. But I wonder, do you actually know the story of the game? Because I realized not too many know this. The game starts when they kidnap your girlfriend or your brothers, and you go on a quest to save her. In the arcade, I never understood why you had to fight your brother at the end. Yeah, after the big fight, after the boss, you have to fight your brother. Yeah, I know, it was for the girl, who got the girl, but then I did not fully realize what was really going on there. The NES version gave us more information on this. It also kinda spoiled the plot twist at the end of the game, and also gave away that he was actually the shadow boss. So your friend, your brother, who accompanied you throughout the whole game is suddenly your worst enemy? Well, the Japanese version even gave that one away on the cover. But more shockingly was the fact that the manual gives more away of the game setting. For example, Billy and Jimmy are actually twins from New York City who run a chain of popular martial arts dojos. But it was after a nuclear war that caused a lot of destruction that the society devolved into chaos. I didn't know Double Dragon took place in a post-apocalyptic world, although this kinda explains some of the game's development direction, like why the backdrops were dilapidated and your enemies looked like they came out of the Mad Max world. So how did Kishimoto experience this all through all these years? Well, at the beginning it seems the technological limitations bottlenecked the company and him. The coming of better and newer hardware like Capcom used for titles, take example Final Fight, were the beginning of the end of their series. So what about all those sequels and spin-offs? What did he think about those things? Well, he doesn't really mind, it seems, as long as they uphold a certain quality in whatever they are making. So why did he leave Technos? He had it all there. But since Renegade and Double Dragon became their mascot and they wanted to keep producing them, he wasn't really able to create newer things. But that was only part of the reason for leaving. Technos also started doing businesses in real estates and even bought a real racing team, so he was left with less money on gaming development. So he kinda got fed up with it, how they handled the finances, and he left and worked as a freelance game designer. He also made his own company called Plopfit, a one-man company. Oh yeah, he still has one dream. He wants to make someday the best beat-em-up ever created. But not focused like the others are focusing on, not to try to increase graphics, and he also stated that for decades people have been making beat-em-up games based on his mechanics he invented for the game Kunio-kun, but it never evolved. So really, I hope this guy's dream comes true someday. Alrighty guys and girls, I do hope you did enjoy this, because I certainly did, and be sure to smash that like, subscribe, you know, the usual stuff, the usual things, whatever that pleases you, because that pleases me, so why not? Anyways, off, it's done. Grifter, signing off.